All right, let's talk about mastering a device that seems super simple, but actually has this kind of surprising performance gap. We're going to break down how to use it, not just correctly, but with real precision to make sure it's performing at its absolute peak. So, under perfect lab conditions, this is how effective a condom is at preventing pregnancy, 98th percent. It's a number that basically promises perfect protection, right? This is the device working exactly like it was designed to. A flawless barrier doing its job. But then you get to the real world, with what's called typical use, which really just accounts for all the little mistakes we can make. And that number, it drops. All the way down to this, 82%. That's a huge difference, and it's the reality for a lot of people. So what's going on with the 16% gap? Well, here's the thing. It's not about the device itself failing. It's about human error, preventable human error. And today, we're going to learn exactly how to close that gap. We're moving from just using a condom to truly mastering it. Okay, so your journey to mastery actually starts before the condom even comes out of the wrapper. It all begins with choosing the right armor for the job. Because, believe me, not all barriers are created equal. The material you pick, it affects literally everything. The strength, the feel, heat transfer, and most importantly, which lubricants you can even use with it. This is your first big choice, and it sets all the rules. Now, check this out, because what's really interesting here is what I called the lambskin paradox. As you can see, it's great for preventing pregnancy. But, and this is a big but, its natural pores are just too big to block viruses like HIV. That means it is absolutely not recommended for STI prevention, a super critical distinction you have to know. So let's be crystal clear. Using the wrong lube is like actively sabotaging your own protection. I'm talking about oil-based stuff like petroleum jelly, some lotions, even coconut oil. They can cause a latex condom to break down almost immediately. We're talking catastrophic failure. And this chart just illustrates your safe zones perfectly. See? Water and silicone-based lubes are basically your universal good guys. They're safe with every single type of condom. Oil-based products, on the other hand, have a very, very specific use case. They're only for polyurethane or lambskin condoms. Never, ever mix them with latex or its synthetic cousin, polyisoprene. We've all heard size matters, but here's what's really important. It's the girth, not the length, that's the critical thing for a proper fit. You see, most condoms have plenty of length, but if it's too tight, it's under stress and can break. And if it's too loose, it can just slip right off. So how do you find your perfect fit? Simple. Just measure the thickest part of the erect shaft with a flexible measuring tape. This chart here shows you the nominal width to look for on the box. Nailing this is fundamental to preventing any kind of mechanical failure. All right, let's move on to the next stage of mastery, the actual procedure. This is where most of that 16% gap comes from, and honestly, it's where we can make the biggest difference. I want you to think of this as your professional pre-flight checklist. You do it every single time. An expired condom? Degraded material. No safety mark? Hasn't passed testing. No air bubble? The wrapper seal is broken. And using your teeth? Come on, that can cause tiny tears you won't see until it's way too late. Pay close attention here, because the most critical step is number 2, pinching the tip. This is so important. It creates a little reservoir for ejaculate. If you trap air in that tip, the pressure during ejaculation can literally cause the condom to burst at its weakest point. This one little move dramatically cuts down the risk of a break. This right here is a non-negotiable rule. Never, ever, ever flip and reuse a condom that you started to put on inside out. Why? Because the outside surface might now have pre-ejaculate on it, which totally defeats the purpose of the barrier if you then roll it on the right way. Just toss it and grab a new one. Look, even with perfect technique, failures can happen. A true master is always prepared for what comes next. Knowing what to do in an emergency is just as important as knowing how to prevent it in the first place. The key here is to act quickly, but also calmly. You have really effective options to reduce the risk of both pregnancy and STIs, but for all of them, the clock is ticking. So first things first, stop immediately. Now, it might seem intuitive to try and, flush everything out, but douching is a huge no-no. It can actually damage delicate tissues and force pathogens higher into the body, making things worse. Gentle external washing with a little soap and water is all you should do. When it comes to emergency contraception, every single hour counts. The options you see here are most effective the sooner you use them. So while the copper IUD is the most effective one overall, pills like levonorgestrel are at their most powerful within the first 24 hours. Know your options and act fast. This is an absolutely critical time window. We're talking about post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP. It's a highly effective way to prevent HIV infection after a potential exposure, but it must be started within 72 hours. After that point, it's generally not considered effective anymore. This timeline is so important because it shows you why you can't just run out and get tested the next day and expect a clear answer. Different infections have what are called window periods before they actually show up on a test. Following a schedule like this is the only way to get a truly accurate picture of your health. And finally, let's cover a few expert-level tips. Think of these as the small adjustments that separate typical use from perfect use, the things that will help you operate at that 98% effectiveness level every single time. You've got to treat your condoms like the medical devices they are. I know it seems convenient to stick one in your wallet, but the constant body heat and the friction from sitting on it, that can seriously degrade the material and create micro tears you'll never even see. The rule is simple: cool, dry, dark place, always. Okay, let's quickly talk about some specific situations. For anal sex, there's more friction, so you need more lube, and for longer sessions, you should probably change out the condom to be safe. And one rule is absolute: never ever go from anal to vaginal use with the same condom. That's a critical way to prevent transferring bacteria that can cause really serious infections. Because that's really the big takeaway, isn't it? When you shift your mindset from a simple how-to to a true sense of mastery, you can actually close that effectiveness gap. You can take full, confident control of your own sexual health.